Happy Monday. Where we left off last week, Paul was arrested and faced this angry, violent mob in Jerusalem. He was placed under Roman control. And where we pick up the story today, he's going to do the thing that has seemingly got him out of trouble, at least in some cases on his missionary journeys. He's going to speak. Paul loves to deliver these powerful, emotionally driven speeches about the gospel, about his own life, and that's what he's going to ask to have the opportunity to do here in Jerusalem in front of this angry mob. Now, it's important to recognize that these aren't just people for Paul. These are people that he grew up with. He was raised in Jerusalem. I'm going to start again because I'm losing my voice. Okay, let's try that again. Sorry. Okay. Where we left off last week, Paul was in Jerusalem. He went to the temple where he faced this violent, angry mob of Jewish people there. He was arrested, placed under Roman control and guard, and now he's going to do the thing that I think makes him like quintessentially Paul. He's going to ask to deliver a speech. All throughout the book of Acts, we've seen Paul deliver these really stirring, emotionally driven speeches about the gospel or even his own testimony, and that's what he's going to do now. He just simply tells his story. And what I find really comforting about this is he's not speaking to a whole sea of vast strangers. Surely there are people he doesn't know. But keep in mind, Paul comes from Jerusalem. He was a huge figure in the city, one of a well-respected rabbi who trained under an even more well-regarded, well-respected rabbi. It's possible that his family members are out in the crowd. He is speaking to his community, the community that he was shepherded in and grew up in, who trained him in the way of the law and Moses throughout most of his life. And now he's going to face them again. And for at least the third time, we'll see one more coming up, he's going to share his story, what happened to him, how he encountered Jesus. And you'll read about that story today. But there's one line that I have just found myself drawn to kind of toward the end. At the very end of his just recounting of what happened to him on the Damascus Road, in verse 13, this is what he says. And at that very hour, I received my sight and saw him. Think about that. All of us have heard about Jesus throughout our lives, most likely because we live in a Western culture and we grew up in a country that at least has a lot of undertones of Christianity. All of us at some point have heard ideas about God, who he is. But what Paul is describing is this moment of revelation, this moment of like eyes open, aha moment, where he saw God in a different way, where he experienced Jesus in a different way. It's revelation that then leads him into relationship. What does that look like for you? When was that moment where you just had that aha, like this is real, it really matters, where your relationship with Jesus became less about knowing about Jesus and actually experiencing Jesus? This is so powerful to me because at the beginning of this book, when we were first introduced to Paul, his name was Saul, and he was a murderous man hell-bent on killing Christians. In fact, if this were any other man standing here, if Paul hadn't had the experience that he had, he would probably be in the crowd shouting, "Away with him, away with him," if this were any other teacher of Christianity. And only God can do something like that. Only God can take the man who was just determined to wipe out Christianity, zealous for the law to the point of violence and murder, and bring him back to the same place where he witnessed and even condoned the stoning of Stephen and make him ready to die for the cause of Jesus. Only God can do that. And so this is just the simple question I have for you this morning. What is the only God moment that you've experienced in your life? If you look back over the past few years, over the past decades, what is the moment that just makes you say, only God can do this. Only God could orchestrate these things. Only God could do the things that have happened in my life. I didn't grow up a Christian. I never thought that I would be working for a church, much less a pastor teaching on the Bible. Only God was able to pull that off. What does that look like for you? What are the only God moments that have strung together your story, who have taken you from something over here into who you are today? And even more than that, what is the only God thing that He wants to do for your future? We're nearing the end of the year. What does God want to do in 2024 for you that when you look back at the end of the year, you'll say, only God could make that happen? And I just want to submit to you that if God can take Paul, a murderous, zealous Jewish man, and use him to be the spark of this renewal movement throughout all of Israel and even as far into Greece and here still for us today, if God can do that, I think that God can do tremendous things in the lives of you and me and our community as well. Amen.